How you going?
I'm very good. Ash is spending a lovely summer's day with his daughter in San Francisco, and he's on his way north up to, well, he'll be in Canada, at least in Vancouver on the 15th. And I'm glad to finally chat with you because I know you return to Canada every year or so, would you say?
Yeah, I try to. In fact, if I can, sometimes I come twice a year because I'm trying to sort of get more into coming in summer and doing the festivals. And in winter, I sort of more do snow towns. Whistler's crowds and stuff are a bit more constant, I guess, because people get into mountain biking and stuff. But some of the other places, like the snow towns and whatever, you wouldn't go to in summer. You go to different places, go to Victoria and still go to Kelowna and different places. But yeah, it's all a bit of fun.
Well, we'll get back into talking about Canada in a little while, but I just wanted to start out for folks who aren't so familiar with your sound. I know you've sort of self-described yourself here, I've found online, as blues with a bit of a soul hip-hop approach. How would you put words to your sound for the uninitiated listener?
Well, the way I sing and play guitar and stuff is pretty informed by blues and kind of some of the more heavy, rockier blues and rock, I guess. And then on the beats front, you know, it can be anything from hip-hop to dance music or on the floor kind of stuff. That's in the studio. Oh, and I have brought that over into the live show as well. And then the traditional sound that I used to have and still do a lot of is that sort of stomping kind of, you know, playing kick drum on one foot and making a snare drum sound with the other foot, kind of raw pub/festival kind of sound.
And you still, like I know in your early days, that was a sound you came upon fairly quickly, and you still use the same sort of stomp box approach and the slide guitar and dobro to this day, even with the addition of the electronic angle?
Yeah, I still do. I mean, I've done a lot of different things over the years, but these days I sort of do an amalgam of all of the different setups that I've had. So I've got enough material and gear that I could do a show that's just sort of standing there and operating, sort of DJing in a sense, from operating the hip-hop loops and stuff from the combination of an iPad and some foot pedals. Or I could do a whole show all organic, you know, just using the kickbox, the kick drum and the snare kind of sound, or, you know, more often than not it's a hybrid of the both. But it just depends on how I'm feeling and the sort of the audience really, and what I think they'd probably get into and what I feel like playing on a particular occasion.
Yeah, that's what I really get a sense of you, that you're very willing to go with the flow, really, and because of the great amount of experience you have, you can angle it whichever way you like in the moment.
Yeah, and that's a good thing about playing solo. You don't have to confer with anyone else or tell anyone else what you're going to do. You just do it.
And be incredibly mobile, which is, I guess, it gets you to a lot of places. And in terms of your sound as well, I'm actually going to read out what you said online in 2005. You said to an interviewer, "What I'm doing is a kind of cross between old Delta blues and hip-hop-ish modern roots. So hopefully there is a blues resurgence. I'll be on it." Do you think now, these years later, would you say there has been a blues resurgence?
Well, I mean, I'm lucky enough to say that, you know, my career's gone better every year, and I don't think I've skyrocketed meteorically or anything like that, but my career has gone better every year. But as for there being a scene or a bluesy kind of thing, I don't know that that's really happened. I mean, but then again, you know, the Black Keys in that time have gone from doing pretty to being arena-sized. There's a new blues guy called Gary Clark Jr. who does really well, who seems to be kicking up. That popularity got me on movies, you know, like how I got walking on the movie Limitless it was about 3 years ago.
Live band.
It's Robert De Niro in it, the one about, what's it, and I forget the main guy. You know, I had a song on that which, you know, was a really big thing, and for me, and something I never expected, especially from way over in little old Australia. So those things have happened, and I attribute that to the trend of having, of Black Keys getting on a whole lot of Hollywood movies, and maybe I've been, that second fiddle for a couple, because there's a couple of little things I've got, and I'm sure maybe they asked the question to Black Keys first or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. But so there's been a few little coattails that I may have written on, but it is not being maybe what I was hoping in 2005 might have been a little grander than that, but heaps of bluesy stuff out there. But, I don't think that sound, soulful sounds, I don't think they'll ever go away, and I feel lucky to have been drawn to a more timeless genre. And, now it's just my mission to just repeat things that have been done in the past in that genre. It's my aim to do things that are new and interesting and different.
Listeners now are seeing a different, or a slightly different side to you with the addition of these two gentlemen to your new album and tour. Now, who are Scott Owen and Andy Strachan, for people who don't know the Australian punk scene, perhaps?
Well, I shouldn't lead anybody down the garden path in case they're thinking that I brought the dudes to Canada, because I didn't. I am playing solo in Canada, but that is my current release. And I'm doing some of the new songs that are on that album, but a lot of those songs on that album are re-recordings in this sort of lineup, which is, they're 3/4 of the living end, and they're amazing players, and amazing rock players. So it was sort of what happened, we did a version of the Niles Barkley song Crazy. And the reason we did that was to promote my last tour, which was a month-long stint on the road. And as something different, I got the boys, and I thought that would be a good draw for the crowds, and an interesting, different thing to do. And the song went really way better than we thought, and it was, playlisted on Triple M, which is, for people who don't know, big commercial station in Oz, and that's all around Australia. And we ended up, playing on a few different commercial TV shows, and that it sort of took things to a new level. So I just, said to them, hey, let's jump in and do an album. And I had a couple of new songs, so we did them, but the other it was just reinterpret stuff from my back catalogue. So that's what that album's all about. And the guys are just amazing players. They really brought a lot of energy to it, and I'm actually going to do a few festivals with them when I get home. Yeah, they're just great players.
But how did the initial combination occur? I would not have predicted that. Were you already mutual friends?
Yeah, well, I'm good with Scotty, the double bass player. In fact, the day we met, we were jamming because I was doing a duo with Cram from Spiderbait, and we were all jamming together. Scotty's wife Em and my wife Danny were there as well at the place we were jamming, and they hit it off, and they ended up forming a band called Mr. Cassidy, which is sort of more Appalachian kind of country kind of stuff. And Scotty actually plays in that band, so I've been seeing a lot of Scotty over the last 2 years. And, we've done family holidays over to Bali and just hung out heaps and whatever. And then just over the New Year's period, we ended up. I ended up getting him on bass and Rob Hurst from Midnight Oil on drums to make a little bit of a super band. Same thing, just to do something different and interesting. And that was really fun. And so we just did that and left it at that, and I went back to solo. And then just one weekend, I knew he had a weekend off, and I was like, hey, you want to come down to Melbourne and just have a jam? And really just for fun and just to hang out. And while we were down there, he rang Andy and said, because we were playing 20 minutes away from where Andy lived, said, do you want to come down for a jam? He did, and it just sounded so good that I invited him to the St Kilda Fest next day, and he'd never had a rehearsal. We were playing to about 8,000 people or something.
Wow.
And it just went off, and that sort of got us all excited, and so that's when I ended up asking him to do a whole tour.
Ah, I see. That's amazing. You mentioned Rob Hurst. Actually, what an experience! What is he like these days? Do you think he still has the fire burning inside of him for, the passion for social justice? And do you see any evidence that he's slowing down at all?
He's very well-spoken and well-read and keeps abreast of all the issues. I noticed that while we were touring around, me and Scotty felt like dumbasses. And he's, like, we're always partying and carrying on, drinking, doing this and that, and Rob's like a bit more chilled out, doesn't, keeps it on an even keel, and sort of pretty straight kind of guy, and just fit as an absolute fiddle. 50 whatever, and he's just still ripped up, and it's pretty inspiring actually. And then he takes off his shirt, and he's wearing a tank top while he's playing, puts on the gun, and he's just ripping. And I just thought, fucking hell, good on him.
Yeah.
It's quite inspiring. So it was really good playing with him.
Yeah.
But I'd probably say it was just an honour to play with him, and Scotty was frothing because he's big Midnight Oil fan. He even has a Midnight Oil tattoo on his. But musically speaking, with Andy, Andy's easily one of the best rock drummers in the country. It probably fitted even better with him, but I loved it with Rob anyway. But every drummer brings their own different flavour, and Andy's that generation, sort of closer to me in age. I'm like 36. I'm not sure how old Andy's a similar age, hearing, Rage Against the Machine, Killing in the Name of, when we were teenagers and stuff, that sort of stuff rubs off, and that's a natural groove that we hit together, so that's been a good thing.
You seem to be in a really wonderful position now where you can just head off to Canada on your own and fill a room and go back and play with that powerhouse, that powerhouse combo you have now. It's really great.
Oh, it's fun, and it is. It's still fun. When I go back to solo, the main things that I concentrate on, I'm singing and I'm doing the odd solo, but most of the time I'm playing things akin to a bass line. Well, I'm playing a bass line, and I'm playing drums with my feet, so I'm usually bass and drums. So when it took a while and a few gigs to stop being like that and thinking like that, and just stand up there and sing and solo and get more into that kind of thing. So it's a really, I am in a lucky sort of situation. Even just like, just that thing that if you have an idea, when you're further on in your career and you've done a few more things, people know your name. Not to say any, I'm not trying to boast or anything, but just if the other musos know your name, then you can sort of call them up and go, hey, do you want to give this a try or give that a try? And it's just great for jamming. That's one of the rewards of being further on in your career, that you can do those kind of collaborations. So I really appreciate that.
And just getting back to, like say, with Rob Hurst, and we all know, his passion for environmental justice. And I know that your album, The Trouble's Door, lyrically, it did reflect a little bit of your own frustration with political and environmental mismanagement.
In particular, on the new album, the song The Last Stand is about coal seam gas mining, which is a new form of gas mining that's ravaging Australia, and I'm being very involved in trying to stop that and doing whatever I can with my music to draw attention to it. Just before I left, I jumped into the Condamine River, which is bubbling with methane 24/7 as a result of coal seam gas mining, and it was a really good thing because that one went right round the Australian press and stuff, and I think the photo hopefully sort of made a difference to the debate. And I know it's been called to the attention of the federal government now, which is pretty cool. But I don't know much about the Canadian state of affairs, so I'm hoping to learn more on this tour, actually.
I dare say, yeah, if you start to speak of your experience back home, people will probably draw parallels. I hadn't heard of that myself, exactly what you spoke about. This is the first. So it's really interesting to hear that what's going on back there. and you're doing something.
Well, the other word for it is fracking. You probably would have heard about fracking.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, which is right across the US. There's probably fracking in Canada. They're doing it all over the world.
That's right.
They've been given the boot from a lot of countries. It's the most dangerous thing ever, but, I don't know. Is that a new form of coal mining that they're trying to do in Canada?
Oh well, it's more the oil sands. It's called the tar sands. It's a different way of extracting oil from the last remaining sort of residue that requires a lot more energy to get the energy out. And there's been pretty environmentally destructive repercussions across the northern part of Alberta and places like that.
It's absolutely ridiculous. It's all space and stuff now, and we all know that renewables are the way to go, and there's other countries, particularly in Europe, that are doing it and doing quite well. Like in Germany, and you drive across Portugal, Spain, all these places. They've just got wind farms on every ridge, solar farms. There's no problem with renewable energies. It's just that the oil and gas and fossil fuel lobby is so strong. That's the only thing. I really think there's a big flaw in our system, that if a lobby group is big enough, it doesn't have to be good for the people or the environment or the society. They just can't be stopped if the lobby's big enough, and they can influence the whole people, governments, everybody. And I think that's a big flaw in the way we're set up, and I have no idea how you change it.
You know what, Ash? I'm almost shaking here because I hate to tell you a dramatic irony, but I was just on YouTube playing one of your clips, and an ad came up right before your song, which was sponsored by the Government of Canada, telling us about how wonderful they're doing with their environmental practices. I actually just watched that half an hour ago, so I couldn't imagine a greater irony. And it was just that, like a little, family with fishing by this beautiful lake. And meanwhile, there's actually, in northern Alberta right now, there is an unstoppable oil spill. I'll let you maybe look into that in your own time, but it's really wonderful to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, that's bizarre. Oh, well, my God. You've got to sort of operate within this. I think you can still operate within this society and in the way that it's set up, and still do good. Although that is, that's a good example. It's never without its paradoxes and ironies.
Yeah.
But, just got to try and do the right thing.
That's right. Yeah. Well, it is great to chat with you and hear your views on this, and to know that you can knock us out with a great whole blast of music, but also be articulate about these issues. So thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot.